Ethan turned the intricate, jewel-encrusted egg over in his hands, thinking that Liam Hamilton was an incurable spendthrift. Only his brother Mark could possibly put up with it. The object, however, sparked another memory. He recalled finding a gift box in the apartment hallway on his birthday the previous year. It had his name on it, and inside was a simple brooch. He asked Liam if it had been from him. At the time, the anonymous gift wishing him a happy birthday had been written in an unfamiliar hand. Yet, for some inexplicable reason, he had felt the certainty that Liam had come to see him. He had rushed down from the apartment, gift in hand, only to find the street outside empty except for the shifting shadows of trees and a few students talking quietly beneath them. He stood there for a long time, the disappointment settling in as he finally accepted it was just wishful thinking. He never did find out who sent the gift. A rare hint of bashfulness crossed Liam's features. He admitted it was from him. He had wanted to give Ethan the ornate egg but decided it was too extravagant, something Ethan would have surely refused back then. So, he chose the more understated brooch, intending to give it to him on his birthday. But that day, Ethan had gone out to celebrate with others. Liam had waited in the apartment all night, but Ethan never returned. His mind had spiraled, convinced Ethan had finally found someone else, maybe the same person he'd seen him with before. He imagined them together, that person giving Ethan roses and kissing his brow, while he, Liam, remained a shadow, clutching a gift that might never be received. Still, he had wanted to wait, to at least catch a glimpse of Ethan, perhaps even orchestrate a chance encounter just to exchange a single word. But late that night, a call came from home. His brother was in the midst of a severe conflict with their father, a dispute that would determine the future of the Hamilton family business. As the other heir, he had no choice but to book a flight and rush back immediately. By the time Ethan returned to the apartment the next day and found the gift, Liam was likely already on a plane, about to land. Later, after he had helped his brother secure control of the family enterprise, he felt he had earned a chance to find Ethan again. But then he heard that Ethan was leaving the country. He rested his forehead on Ethan's shoulder, murmuring about his own foolishness. Ethan's hand gently rested on his head, a gesture meant to soothe a large, lost creature. In 3 days, it would be the birthday of the old patriarch of the Vaughn family. The thought caused both of them to frown. Mr. Vaughn Sr. had been a formidable figure in his youth. In his old age, he was a man whose presence commanded either apprehension or resentment from his descendants. His only daughter, Ethan's adoptive mother, had been his most cherished child, raised in a gilded cage until she was fragile and delicate. An unexpected tragedy had taken her. Ethan could still recall the piercing intensity of the old man's eyes during his questioning. Despite this, Ethan decided he had to go. He leaned into Liam's embrace, his hand held firmly in Liam's palm, his mood somber. He explained calmly that there was something he needed to confirm, telling Liam not to worry. He had no real connection to the Vaughns anymore. Going back this time would change nothing. They were them and he was himself. The old man had grieved his daughter, but 4 years was a long time. It was time for him to have calmed down. Liam didn't try to interfere. The Vaughn family was in decline, the old man long since retired from the forefront. Their businesses were failing one by one. Though their families were once considered peers, there was no history of marriage between the Hamiltons and the Vaughns, so their ties were not particularly close. The family now lacked competent heirs, and several of their companies had been acquired. Liam's brother, Mark, had a single, cutting assessment of the current Vaughn in charge. A waste of hollow ambition. A man with no talent could maintain a family business, but a man with no talent and great ambition was a recipe for disaster. Liam squeezed Ethan's fingers. Since returning, Ethan had been with him. While not a businessman himself, Ethan's writings had won numerous awards over the years, and he had made many shrewd investments. More importantly, he held shares in both the Hamilton and Yu family fortunes. Mark doted on him, ensuring there was never any friction between the brothers over the family business. Ethan would always be the second young master of the Hamilton family. Liam suspected that some opportunistic person had already informed the Vaughns that he and Ethan were back together. Mark had warned him that the Vaughn family had built its fortune on advantageous marriages. Even though Ethan was adopted, he still carried their name. Liam held Ethan's hand and spoke with gravity, promising he would be with him and would never let anyone hurt him again. The night before the trip to the Vaughn estate, Ethan went with Liam back to the Hamilton family home. Mark had invited him before, but at the time, Ethan had felt his relationship with Liam was too uncertain and had declined. This time, the invitation was for Liam's niece's birthday. Ethan thought for a moment and agreed. He remembered the little girl, a tiny infant in his arms 4 years ago, smelling of milk, a small dimple on her cheek. Now Liam pulled out a photo on his phone. The little girl in the picture wore a yellow chick-patterned coat, her face smeared with watercolor paint as she giggled, reaching out to smudge her younger brother's face. A smile touched Liam's lips as he spoke of her. When the car turned into the Hamilton estate, Ethan looked at the familiar trees and railings, feeling as though nothing had changed. Except the first time he had come here, Mark was not yet in charge, and their father had not yet retired overseas. And just like that first time, Liam held his hand as they walked inside. Liam's father was descending the stairs. The coldness between father and son was immediately apparent. Liam's gaze was hard as he tightened his grip on Ethan's hand. Ethan had always been a little intimidated by Liam's father, by the dispassionate coldness in his eyes. He still managed a polite greeting. "Mr." Hamilton looked at Ethan in silence for a moment before giving a curt nod and walking past them without another word. Liam acted as if his father wasn't there, leading Ethan further into the house. As Ethan lowered his head, he caught sight of the wedding ring on Mr. Hamilton's hand. He had heard the stories, the rumors of infidelity that had never ceased, before or after his wife's death. Yet here he was, years after she was gone, still wearing it. Mark and his wife, Jessica, were already waiting. Many had been skeptical of Mark's marriage to Abeda, speculating she would have trouble producing an heir and would never secure her position. But Liam had told Ethan how his brother had pursued Jessica relentlessly through college and beyond. When Ethan first started seeing Liam, Mark and Jessica's second child, Mia, had just been born. As they entered the living room, a small, energetic bundle ran straight into Ethan's legs. The little girl stumbled and sat down hard but didn't cry, simply looking up at him with wide, watery eyes. Ethan bent down and saw her fair face and petal-like lips. Her long lashes blinked, and he was so charmed that he scooped her up. The last time he'd seen her, she was a baby. Now she could wrap her arms around his neck and ask in a sweet voice who he was. Liam Drilly answered for him, telling his niece this was her uncle Ethan. Ethan shot him a helpless look. The girl, Mia, ignored her uncle and introduced herself, telling the handsome man her name was Mia. Ethan's heart melted at her small voice, and he quickly introduced himself. Jessica came over, her face lit with genuine happiness to see Ethan. She pulled him over to sit, teasing her daughter for being so taken with him. Mia, after a moment's consideration, decided that since she saw her mother every day, she would not let go of the handsome stranger. She then began to perform a children's song for him. Jessica complained good-naturedly to Ethan about her daughter's boy-crazy tendencies. Mark walked over, his son Leo in tow. He overheard his wife and added, deadpan, that he wondered who was swooning over actors on TV just last night. Jessica discreetly stepped on his foot. Unfazed, Mark smiled at Ethan. He didn't much resemble Liam. His demeanor was colder, more serious, but his smile softened the stern lines around his eyes. He told Ethan to feel at home, that this was just a family gathering. Liam wrapped an arm around Ethan's waist, gently lifted his niece from Ethan's lap, and handed her to her father. He lazily remarked that his brother had always wanted an Omega sibling. He claimed that Mark had waited outside the delivery room when he was born and burst into tears when he heard he was an alpha, begging their mother to put him back. Ethan and Jessica laughed. Mark held his daughter and glared at his brother, retorting that even now, he regretted not stuffing him back. Dinner was served in the courtyard, where stone lanterns cast a warm glow. Water trickled from a rock garden, and the air smelled of damp earth and blooming flowers. There were only the 6 of them. Though it had been 4 years, Ethan's past with Liam felt like a separate chapter. He knew Mark and Jessica well, and they both liked him. As Mark said, it was just a family dinner, and the atmosphere was relaxed. Mia, the birthday girl, insisted on sitting next to Ethan, whispering that she would share her cake with him. Ethan, completely charmed, peeled shrimp for her, while Liam waited by his side, hoping Ethan would offer him some. He was ignored. Liam silently placed a piece of grilled salmon on Ethan's plate, and Ethan thanked him without looking up, already deep in conversation with Jessica. Finally, Liam turned to his brother and asked if they were a bit redundant at the table. Mark, chewing slowly, directed Liam's gaze to his own bowl. His 7-year-old son, Leo, was seriously attempting to place a piece of asparagus on his father's plate, instructing him to eat. Liam fell silent. Seeing Ethan and Jessica occupied, Mark spoke quietly to his brother. He asked if he and Ethan were back together for good. Liam admitted it was still a work in progress, that it all depended on when Ethan could fully accept him. He was being completely honest. Mark looked at his brother and suppressed the urge to lecture him. Instead, he noted that Ethan seemed very fond of Mia, and that it would be wonderful if Liam had a little daughter of his own someday. Liam flinched. He knew Ethan loved children, but he looked at Ethan smiling as he held Mia, listening to her chatter, and a knot of bitterness formed in his chest. His mind flashed to a bottle of Omega contraceptives he had seen in Ethan's bathroom cabinet, half empty. He cut his brother off before he could continue, telling him to stop. He said softly that if Ethan were to have a child with him now, he would be ecstatic. But he had seen the pills. He had found them by accident one night, looked at the half-empty bottle in silence for a long time, and then put it back exactly where he found it, saying nothing. Mark didn't understand his brother's sudden melancholy. Liam didn't elaborate, just clinked his glass against his brother's and asked him for a drink. Later, as the evening cooled, they sat chatting in the courtyard. The garden was designed to be pleasant even on warm nights. Peonies bloomed in the dark, their shapes hazy and indistinct. Liam was sent inside to get more drinks. Jessica took the children to watch the koi in the pond, leaving Mark and Ethan alone on the sofa. Mark cleared his throat. He wasn't as skilled at conversation as his wife. He asked Ethan how his years abroad had been, and Ethan answered each question patiently. Mark's fingers tapped on his knee, his expression hesitant. Ethan sensed he had something important to say and waited. Mark finally looked at him directly. He said it must have been incredibly hard for him these past few years. He assured Ethan that while he was a businessman, he didn't lie to his family. He genuinely wanted Ethan to be a part of their family. He saw Ethan's discomfort and quickly added that he wasn't trying to plead Liam's case. Liam had done wrong and deserved the consequences. He was speaking only for himself and Jessica. He told Ethan that Liam had failed him, and Ethan had every right to forgive him or to leave him. He would not condone his brother's behavior. If Liam ever caused trouble again, Ethan could come to him. Ethan smiled. He knew Mark was a decent man, a rarity among their circle. He replied softly that he, too, hoped for a different ending this time with Liam. But 4 years had changed them both, and he couldn't guarantee a happy outcome. He sincerely told Mark that if they did end up separating, he hoped he would understand. He truly liked his family, but fate was unpredictable. Mark was silent for a moment, then nodded in understanding. He had been in love. He knew it didn't always work out. But he also knew that if Liam failed with Ethan, he would likely face a life of solitude. This was his only brother. He hesitated, then tried again. He told Ethan that he was saying this to defend his brother, but that Liam wasn't always like this. If their mother hadn't passed away, if it hadn't affected him so deeply, he wouldn't have become so resistant to commitment, to the idea of a permanent bond. A flicker of sadness crossed Mark's face. He insisted Liam wasn't a bad person, just consumed by guilt and anger over their mother's death. He then asked Ethan if Liam had ever told him the real reason their mother died. Ethan was confused. He had always been told she died of an illness. But Mark's tone suggested something more. Before he could hear it, Liam returned with the drinks. His voice was low and strained as he called out to his brother. He sat down between Ethan and Mark, a physical barrier separating them. Ethan could only offer Mark an apologetic smile. A short while later, Liam followed his brother. He asked Jessica to stay with Ethan for a moment, saying he needed to speak with Mark. As soon as they were alone, Liam confronted him, demanding to know why he was telling Ethan those things. He insisted he didn't need anyone to make excuses for him. The mistakes were his and he deserved the fallout. He said Ethan didn't need to be responsible for him or his psychological baggage. It was his own immaturity and self-righteousness that had led them to this point, and Ethan didn't need to understand any of it. He wanted to shout but kept his voice low, afraid Ethan would overhear. Mark was furious. He argued that even a criminal gets a defense. As his lover, Ethan had a right to know about Liam's psychological struggles. He asked if Liam had ever considered that Ethan might want to know, that he might not want things hidden from him. Liam laughed, a bitter, self-mocking sound. He asked his brother if he was suggesting he should shamelessly tell Ethan that while he had abandoned him and caused him immense suffering, he had his reasons. That he was just sick, so he should be forgiven. He knew Ethan too well. If he laid himself bare, confessed his marking disorder and its origins, Ethan's soft heart would compel him to forgive. But he didn't want that kind of forgiveness. He said Ethan could hold it against him for the rest of his life because he deserved it. When you do something wrong, you get punished. It was a simple truth. He couldn't take advantage of Ethan's kindness. He stated with finality that he couldn't be so shameless. The two alphas glared at each other, two lions at a standoff. After a long moment, Liam looked away first. His voice softened, pleading. He told his brother he knew how much Ethan had suffered, and he couldn't let him be wronged any further. His issues were his own to deal with. He didn't want Ethan's pity. He wanted his love to be his best choice, the one who gave him security, not someone who was excused. He begged Mark not to interfere again. What more could Mark say? He had always loved his younger brother. He sighed, defeated. This fool was determined to do things the hard way. Liam turned and saw Ethan looking at him from the sofa. Their eyes met and Ethan offered a small smile. Liam couldn't help but smile back, his entire face lighting up. In that moment, anyone could see he was deeply and devoutly in love. Mark gave up. Ethan drove them back that evening since Liam had been drinking. They now spent most of their time in the apartment they had bought together 4 years ago. Liam had cleared away the wall of photos he had put up, muttering his protests as Ethan watched from the sofa, lazily flipping through a magazine. He carried the box of frames to a spare room. But a landscape Ethan had painted long ago was rehung in its place. The technique was unrefined, but Liam handled it with extreme care, a cherished look on his face. Ethan had enjoyed the evening. Mia had been sleepy when they left but still hugged him tightly, whispering for him to come back and see her soon. Liam had grumbled that she said the same thing to their cousin last week, but Ethan didn't mind. He kissed Mia's cheek and told her he liked her, too. Now, driving through a tunnel, the flashing lights reminded him of the visit to the Vaughn estate the next day, dampening his mood. He also thought about what Mark had been about to say, his words about Liam's resistance to commitment being tied to their mother's death. He had heard Liam say he was a non-marriage type, but he'd always attributed it to a desire for freedom. Mark's tone suggested a deeper story. He remembered the funeral. Liam's mother had been in the process of divorcing his father when she died suddenly. At the service, Mr. Hamilton had been stoic, his handsome face cold, treating it like a formal farewell rather than a final one. Rumors had swirled, but Ethan knew that if there had been any real foul play, Liam would have moved heaven and earth to see his father imprisoned. Liam obviously wanted to avoid the subject. Ethan looked out the window and let it go. Everyone had secrets. It was better not to pry. Back at the apartment, Ethan showered and went to bed, exhausted. He fell asleep quickly, but it was a restless sleep. He dreamt of Mrs. Vaughn. In the first year he was abroad, he dreamt of her often, seeing her lifeless on the ground, a pale, grim face with a smear of blood at her lips. But tonight, in his dream, she was herself again, wearing a soft dress, her hair pinned up with pearl earrings. She was the perfect, delicate Omega lady of the Vaughn family, incapable of resisting her father's will. In the dream, Ethan held her hand, and she smiled at him. Then she whispered, "Why are you still alive?" The question was full of pitiful, genuine regret. The words cut him like a knife, but he smiled back and said something in reply. Her gentle face twisted into a mask of resentment and sorrow. But Ethan kept smiling, even as a pain so intense he could hardly breathe threatened to drown him. He woke with a small cry. Liam, sleeping beside him, was instantly awake, turning on a lamp. He leaned over, asking what was wrong. It took Ethan a moment to focus on his face in the warm yellow light. He sat up slowly, his face pale. After a moment, he told Liam he wanted some water. Liam brought him a glass. Ethan took a few slow sips, the warmth sliding down his throat and easing some of the chill in his heart. Liam asked what nightmare he'd had, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. Ethan stared at his faint reflection in the water. He dreamt of Mrs. Vaughn, he said. He never called his adoptive mother Mom. He recalled how, as a boy in the orphanage, he used to imagine what a mother would be like. He turned the glass in his hands, his voice soft and steady, while Liam listened quietly, his arm a comforting weight around his thin shoulders. After he was adopted by the Vaughns, he was terrified of her when she was unwell. But in her lucid moments, she was everything he had imagined. Gentle, with the scent of peaches, she would hold him and watch the flowers outside the window, reading him sonnets. His throat tightened at the memory of living in her room when he first arrived, a time filled with a fragile, fleeting sense of peace.